Good morning. It's October 18th, 2024. We're critiquing the news. The article on your screen is from the Cairns Post and it's titled Energy Bills Power On. Now, the way all the left's myths about cheap and reliable renewables are collapsing would be hilarious if it wasn't so tragically destructive to the Australian electricity network and to all the people and businesses that rely on it. To quote from the article, the cost of wholesale electricity rose during winter as periods of depressed renewable energy generation coincided with soaring demand for power amid bitterly cold weather, Australian Energy Regulator data shows. And this is something that's been known to the sceptical side of this debate for a very long time. In winter, particularly down south, you tend to get long periods where it's grey and overcast, so the solar doesn't work very well, if at all, and at the same time there's no wind, so the giant wind turbines stand there as monuments to people who don't understand grid-scale electricity generation. Now, there are four compelling reasons that the so-called transition to renewables is guaranteed to fail. 1. There are frequent and prolonged wind droughts where there is next to no wind across the entirety of southeast Australia for many hours and even days at a time. In fact, they've been recorded for 4 days at a time. That means that the whole of the East Coast electricity grid would be devoid of input from windmills. If at the same time it's cloudy in large regions, then you're not getting the solar either. It doesn't matter how distributed your generators are, they've all got to connect into that same grid, and the tyranny of distance in Australia means the interconnectors to bring the power all the way from, say, Western Australia would cripple the economy instantly. Anyway, item 2, the grid needs a continuous input of power, and nighttime and wind droughts mean renewables cannot provide that. The lowest supply offered by renewables at these times must be considered as their output, not what they're potentially capable of producing in ideal wind and light conditions. 3. Australia is an island. Almost every other place in the developed world has access to neighbours to supply power from many different sources, including nuclear and large hydro, when domestic renewables are in short supply. And this article, by the way, includes legacy hydropower as renewables, which is affected by droughts, as it is in Tasmania at the moment. And they're not building any new main hydropower plants. All they ever want to talk about is pumped hydro. But you cannot call legacy large-scale hydroelectricity generation renewables when they're not replacing them and they're not building new ones to deal with the expanding population or to take over from the coal-fired power stations. Anyway, item 4 on my list is Australia's chief scientist has advised strongly that batteries do not have the capacity to store the amount of power required to even out the peaks and troughs in the supply of wind and solar power. And battery storage, as we know it, has pretty much hit the limits of chemistry. I don't expect there to be any huge breakthroughs in battery storage, and I think it's a pointless mission anyway. It's a very polluting technology to mine and refine the minerals. It's very expensive. It's got a very limited life. It's very prone to spontaneous combustion through the growth of dendrites within the electrolyte solutions in each of these batteries. And of course, they produce vast amounts of toxic gases when they catch fire. Now, if the Labor Liberal Uni Party continue with their reckless rush to renewables, rolling blackouts will become the new normal in Australia. Australia will be effectively a third world nation at that point, and complete economic collapse and the end of the welfare system that depends on the economic system is absolutely certain. And this is just one more very good reason to get the Labor Liberal Uni Party out of our parliaments.